day to all our viewers out there. My name is Heinrich Neetling, and this is Mathematical Literacy. In today's lesson, we'll be focusing on data handling, but more specifically on collecting and summarizing of data. Now, before I start with it, I quickly want to check with you. Did you know that data science was identified as the skill with the largest skills gap according to a 2021 report by the World Economic Forum? The average salary, and listen to this, for a data scientist is approximately $100,000 according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and that of a data analyst is about $70,000. Now, if you look at today's exchange rate, that will take us roughly to 1.8 million per annum for the data scientist and about 1.2 million per annum for a data analyst. Now, that is something interesting to consider. Now, what is it that I'll expect of you today? So let's quickly look at our lesson objectives. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to classify and organize data, summarize the data using the measures of central tendency, that is now your mean, median, and mode. You should also be able to use appropriate formulae to calculate, to determine each of the above mentioned concepts. And then you must be able to manipulate or change the subject of the formula. Very important. Okay, now let's move on to what we will be focusing on today. So in today's lesson, we look at frequency table, and thereafter we will go into detail with regards to the measures of central tendency. Okay, so let's quickly look at what you are supposed to know at this moment in time. So when we collect data, right, we can use the methods of observation, interview, or a survey, where we normally use a questionnaire, right? What else is important? We will look at population. So what is a population? We are saying here it's the entire group of interest in statistics. Thereafter, we work with a sample. So what is a sample? A sample is a part or slice or a subset of the population, and it must be representative. Very important, right? Okay, and it must be randomly chosen, and it must be showing no bias. So that is with regards to a sample. What else is important? Bias. So what is the meaning of bias? It's to favor or oppose something or someone in a way which is considered unfair. All right. And then looking at summarizing data. Here, when we summarize data, we use the measures of central tendency. That is now your 3 M's, your mean, median, and mode. Okay, there are a few other things that I want you to know as well. So when we classify data, for example, we will be looking at categorical data. That is generally descriptive in nature and can be classified into categories, right? It cannot be measured. Then we will be looking at numerical data, right? That's data that has numerical values and it can be quantified. Then what else is important when classifying data? We have discrete data. That is numerical data that can be measured, very important, and only includes whole numbers, right? And then we have what we call continuous data. There's numerical data that can be measured, important there, that includes whole numbers, fractions, as well as decimals. Okay, so classifying data, categorical data, numerical data, discrete data, as well as continuous data. So if you look at this, we can therefore say that when we classify data, it will be data, as you're heading there. Then we have numerical data and categorical data. Then we continue by further subdividing our numerical data into discrete or continuous data. All right, so I hope that makes sense. Then also important is the statistical process. Now, I indicated in the arrow on your right-hand side that this is 6 interconnected stages, right, where each stage is analyzed, and also important is that each stage is dependent on the one before it. So looking at what we have here, we're saying we start here, we pose a question, right? Then we collect data based on that question we want to answer. Then we're going to classify and organize our data. Thereafter, we summarize our data. Then we will present our data, our findings. And thereafter, we will interpret and analyze our data. Okay, so moving now to our next slide. Right, it says here pre-knowledge practice. So it's not a test. I just want to check where you are at this moment. Okay, so let's work with me. So the first question here says, Sam received the following literacy test scores: 45%, 30%, 78%, 45%, 91%, and 38%. Use the results to determine the mode. Now, we know the mode is the number that appears the most, right? So in this case, you will agree with me that 45 will be our mode. So I'll write here that 45% is our mode, right? Moving on now to the next one, it says, name one method of collecting data. Remember, we said the methods of collecting data. That, for example, we can say here can be a survey. Okay? All right? Can be an interview, for example. Then, question number 3, true or false. Numerical data refers to data consisting of quantities and numerical values. Now, that is indeed true, right? So the answer there is true. And then we have a last question here. It says, define the term sample. We said that a sample is a part, a slice, and I'll write it down for you. It is a part, or we can say a slice, or a subset, right, of a population. That is what a sample is. Now let's quickly look at what else will be important to you. Just a few words that you should be familiar with by now. So we indicated this already. There are 3 methods of collecting data, and that will be, first of all, an observation. That is, for example, counting the number of cars during peak time at the busy intersection. Then we can also use interviews, for example, asking people their opinion on an important matter. And then we can also use a survey, where we are finding out about people's experience about, for example, a new product or a service by means of a questionnaire, right? And then looking at a few other important words, and you're going to need this as we progress with our lesson. Ascending means to arrange the data from smallest to the biggest value, right? Then we have descending, where we're going to arrange the values from the biggest to the smallest value, right? Can you see the opposite now? Then the mode, that is the data value that occurs most frequently in a data set. We also have the median, where we say it's the middle value of an ordered, very important, an ordered numerical data set. And then we have the mean, where we say that's the average of a numerical data set. Guys, let's quickly take a short break. After the break, we'll put all of this into context. See you now.